Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions. Thank you again so much for our time together. I want us to come back and talk a little bit about leadership today. In Hebrews 13, Paul writes in verse 7, remember your leaders. You're supposed to remember your leaders, people that have provided spiritual leadership in your life. Remember them. Think about them. Remember your leaders who taught you the word of God. Think of all the good that has come from their lives and follow the example of their faith. Now, when you think of me, when you think of the pastors, when you think of former pastors, what you should be thinking about is all the good that came from our lives. Now, that's a very, very humbling thought, because as a pastor, one of the first things you deal with is your own humanity every day. Now, as pastors, we deal with the fact that Paul said we possess this treasure in vessels of clay and earthen vessels. We recognize our imperfection. But we also recognize that if we will teach you the Word of God, good will come from our lives. I like that. I think of all the good that has come from my life, not because of my perfection, but because I've taught you the Word of God. He said, think of all the good that has come from their lives, these people who taught you the Word of God. Not that they're a source of goodness, but the Word of God that they taught you. And follow the example of their faith. Follow the example of their faith. This is what you should be thinking about when you remember leaders. But then he goes down a little bit farther in verse 17. He already said, remember. Now he says, obey. Obey your spiritual leaders and do what they say. Their work is to watch over your souls. All right, so that's the work of a pastor, to watch over your soul. And they are accountable to God. They're accountable to God. So the work of a pastor is to watch over your soul. We say things to you about your soul. Now, it's not my job to get involved in all the aspects of your life, but I do watch over your soul because that's the eternal part of you. And God says, you're going to give an account to me. We're accountable. Now, again, that's one of those scary verses in the Bible, because as pastors, we recognize one day each of us will have a special accounting we have to give. Separate from all of everything else in life that every other Christian goes through, there will be a day that God will call me, Pastor Pagadora, Pastor Manalo, every one of our pastors. God will call us before him, and we will be held accountable for everything we did in your life. We will be held accountable for your spiritual life. So Paul said, listen, obey them, because they're accountable for you. Don't obey us because we're trying to get money from you. Yeah, that's not who we are. Obey us because we're accountable to God for you. And the only thing we care about is your soul.